AM 1220 KDOW and Money 2.0 present The Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Bay Area real estate and mortgage experts with over 25 years in the business.
Now, with an in-depth look at this week's local and national real estate news and what it means for you. Your hosts, Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Welcome into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thank you for joining us today. This is a live show. We are, shelter in place, we are remote. But we've been bearing with it just as best we can. In the meantime, mortgage rates are still record lows. They hit 2.98%, first time it's been below 3%, and they say 50 years. I think they should have said it's the first time they've seen it since they've been recording it. But 2.98%, you can't get over the fact that interest rates are at all-time lows right now. 15-year at 2.48%, the 5-year ARM at 3.06. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you get these kind of rates. We've been kind of teasing that along the way, talking about mortgage accessibility. That means how hard it is to get a mortgage. We're talking about cash out. We're talking about non-QM. We're going to talk about jumbo loans. All of these are facets of the industry that are or are not going to get these rates. We have a guy right now, makes really good money. He's got a 680 credit score, but he can't get a jumbo loan. When 4 months ago, he could have got a very good jumbo loan, in fact. Even with 20% down, all those programs, a first-time home buyer that's using RSUs for down payment or income, which, by the way, you can do. You used to be able to. Less than 9 months or 9 months or less of reserves, things like that. Those are gone. And they're slowly creeping back. So when you hear about these rates, this is probably the biggest divide you're going to see of haves and have-nots. Good credit scores, W-2 and self-employed income is going to do well. No cash out. Yes, you can do it to an extent. You will, you'll be penalized in rate and fee a little bit, but you can do it. So there's a lot of people out there that are getting these and a lot of people who aren't, Gordon.
Well, over the last couple of years, we've been using the old cliche, mortgage rates are its all-time low. I've gotten this business in 1992, which makes about 20 years since I've been tracking mortgages. This is the first time I've actually seen actual mortgage rates below 3% at what we call par pricing. Before, of course, in order to get that low, you had to buy it, and it would still cost a fortune to buy your rate down. You can actually, I've priced out loans today, 30-year fix it at minimum cost, below 3%. I was mind-boggled of how low rates are right now under the circumstance.
Let's make this clear for everybody. Rates never change. I always say this. I know, and it does make sense. Rates never change. A year ago, you could have gotten 3%. You could have got below 3%, right? It's the price of the rate that changes. And what happens when you have low yields? You have places like the ECB, Europe. They're at negative rates, and they're planning today. I think I didn't see the news whether they did or not, but they are expected to extend their stimulus program like another $2 trillion over the next 2 years. Things like that and then you got like the Philippines are they're doing it as well. You have this drive towards low interest rates, and that's going to drive your price down. Where's the money going? Where's the flow of money? Is it going into mortgage-backed securities and bonds and driving down the yields? And that's what we are looking at right now is these low interest rates, and they're incredibly attractive, Gordon.
Yeah, it's what's keeping the market alive. I think right now we're doing loans where people are saving $300-$400 off standard monthly payments. Average person right now is probably, if they refinance within the last 3 years, rates probably hovering between 3 3/4 and 4 1/4. It's beneficial for you now to look into refinancing, unless you've got less than 12 years left on your mortgage. But if you don't, we're talking to people, hey, listen, or take the cash and keep the payment the same. Either one. At this point in time, we're heading into turbulent times where cash is going to be king, so it's always beneficial to have a cash reserve on the side.
Right. So want to finish my thought about the pricing of the rate. So the rates don't change; it's the price of the rate. So that's where we're seeing these go below 4%, where it makes sense. You're not paying a tremendous amount of points, and in fact, we're seeing people go even lower, saying, you know what, I don't think I'm ever going to see 2.5. I'm going to pay to get there, and then I never have to worry about it again. I'm going to be in my house a long period of time. In fact, there's an article again from Robert Schiller. Right? This guy predicted the crash back in 2001 and so on. Okay. And he said basically people are going to stay in their house longer. So if you're going to stay in your house longer and you're going to enjoy this low interest rate, you might as well get the lowest that you can. But going back to your point, people who are in their loan right now that go, okay, I've been in it for 8 years. I don't want to go to a 20, my payment will go up, or maybe a 15, my payment will go up, but I don't want to go back to 30 years. And I don't want to do something like biweekly payments or additional principal payments. Why can't I just get a 22-year loan? You can do that. It's called a flex loan. You can get a 1-year loan. You can get a 7-year loan. You can get a 13-year loan, and the rates will apply for that. Okay, so if it's 15 or under, you'll get to 10, you'll get a 15-year price. If it's 30 to 15, you'll get a 30-year price. By the way, 20 doesn't make any sense. It's all up 20 to 30. It's all the same. So that's what people are also looking at, going, you know what? I don't want to get another 30. I just want to do my term. Does it make sense? You simply take the new loan, and what are your payments? You take your old loan, what are the payments? And you multiply it by the remainder of the term. Whichever one's lower is the one you take. It's that kind of easy math.
Well, it's easy math, but a lot of times there are different terms, different types of different issues we're facing that can take us to do a 30-year loan. A lot of times, sometimes we've been paying off people that have 20-year loans going into 30-year loans because a financial crisis has occurred.
They need more cash
flow. And of
flow.
course, the cheapest money that we talk on the show all the time you're ever going to get is on your primary residence. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were pricing out loans below 3%. There was one particular investor to get to 2.75 on a 30-year fix. It was costing 5 points. So on a $500,000 loan, that means it would cost you to borrow $25,000. Now we're talking that same 2.75 might cost you just 1 point. So you see the substantial difference in where the market has gone based on the yield, based on the bond, based on where the market is, just to try to stimulate. Mortgage is trying to do everything it can to stimulate the market, to keep this market alive while we go through all these different issues that we keep popping up every day, that there's always a new twist every day if you listen to the news as far as what COVID is doing and what the extent is on the overall economy and the mortgage market.
The number one key to get that lowest interest rate is your credit score. You've got to look at your credit score and make sure that is high. You know, right now they're pricing out 720 scores and up. I think, in fact, I looked at an article today. The average credit score since the shelter in place is 771. That's 14 points higher than it was prior for the same loans, the conventional loans, your Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. 14 points higher. That's because that's the people who are getting these rates, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to jump on it because they're getting the best quotes. So the first thing you're going to do is look at your credit score. Everything else is standard. What's your values? We're going to talk a little bit in this show that the United States has the record most equity in their homes at $6.5 trillion ever. But people are having trouble tapping that equity. But there is that equity. Equity is one of those factors. Credit score, what type of house? Are you taking cash out or not? You can still take cash out, but it's that credit score that really gets you. We're looking at one of the best programs in the market is the VA loan, right? VA loans could go under 600 score most, 99% of the time, except during, COVID. And these guidelines, this guy has a 626 score. And a lot of these VA lenders, they're just saying, no, we're not doing it. Credit score is the biggest key you can work on right now. I would start now.
Well, that's because it raves a lot of investors. We always talk about any type of loan, government loan, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, any type of loan. There are the minimums that are put out by the entity, but the investor who actually funds the loan can actually add to those investor guidelines. So this particular investor we called today looking to either VA regular cash out refi or streamline, their minimum score is a 640. So unfortunately for this particular person, we can't do anything for him unless we can find a way to get his credit score up to a 640. And these are all the things that are so important. Everything is credit score driven. You have these different plateaus that you have to make. The good thing about credit scoring, there's a lot of different tools out there in the marketplace to help you be able to analyze and boost your credit in order to get those higher scores. That's why it's very, very important to keep an eye on the credit score. It doesn't cost you a whole lot. You can monitor your credit score daily if you want to, but it's that important, especially if you're looking to do any type of financing, because that's what it always comes down to. What is your credit score is a $99,000 question.
We do something called a what-if scenario. It's a great tool that we use through the credit company that we use, where we can say, okay, if you pay off this debt, or you pay this collection, or you drop your balance on your credit card from $5,000 to $3,500, it might cost you $1,500 to do that, but it might bump your credit. It'll bump your credit score up possibly, which helps you in price on your rate, and so on, and you'll get that money back in a different form. We've seen scenarios where people have done rescores where they've paid their credit card down after they've even gotten into transaction, and the score is retroactive. It will change your pricing. So if you're priced out at 3% and at a 715 score, but then your score goes to 740 after you've started the transaction and after you've locked, it will affect your score. I mean, your pricing, it'll improve. So a lot of people do this as a tool to get instant savings. And I've talked about that story many, many times.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about also, we were talking about this today as far as credit score. One of our clients called today, and he was telling us his credit score went down. And the reason why his credit score went down, 2 of his major credit cards actually have lowered his credit limit. He's made all his payments on time. One credit card, he owed $5,000, he had a $15,000 limit. Now they reduce his credit limit down to $7,500, which now put his exposure as far as from 33%
all the way up to like 70-something percent.
To available credit at a much higher limit, which does factor into his credit score. So here's a guy now that's actually being penalized by something external that's beyond his realm, that he's actually having a lower credit score for. That's something I think the credit companies need to actually work on.
So a lot of great tools out there that you can monitor your credit. One is Credit Karma. Another one is through your credit card companies. There's a lot of tools that you can use, or you can go directly to Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and you can access your credit there for free. That's the important. You can also get a free credit report at annualcreditreport.com, or you can contact us. We can do those scenarios, those what if scenarios. Send us your scenarios. That's what we really want you to do, and we can help you out. We have kind of keeps our finger on the pulse of what people are doing. We love the emails. Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. You can always visit our website, BayAreaLoanSource.com, or call the show, 800-516-1220. 800-516-1220. We'll come back after this break. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in the real estate market, a little bit more about rates, and what to expect in 2021, maybe a little bit of that. We'll be right back after this break on AM 1220 KDOW.
Questions about real estate? Call the program, 800-516-1220. Now, back to the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Oh, so much to talk about. Rates are fantastic. That seems to be all of 2019's underlying theme. COVID, no COVID, rates are fantastic. We've had 2 million home loans from January through April have been originated according to CoreLogic. That's double the same 4-month stretch in 2019. Cash out refinances are down about 42% of those transactions. Cash out refinances are really an interesting animal right now. If you're what they call regular conforming here in the Bay Area, that is 510,000 and 250. Right, just say 510, give or take 510,000. You can get a really good rate with good, you have good equity in the property. You can get cash out. Once you go above that to what they call high balance conforming, then it starts getting a little bit more expensive. We had a client a week ago who called and they wanted 2 transactions. They wanted to achieve they wanted to capture these low interest rates on 2 of their properties. One of them was a rental property, and one was their primary, and when we quoted the rates, she's like, well, where are those 3% rates? So it's the cash out part. So when you get to that high balance realm, it's a little bit harder. You need better credit scores. The qualifying's all the same. It all comes down to whether or not it makes sense. But we do expect this to change back to normal. The cash out part, the lower credit scores, non-QM, jumbo. All of these are expected to come back as soon as the forbearance restrictions that are making these investors fearful of loaning people, and instead of putting the risk throughout the loan, they're putting the risk all up front, and they're charging you up front. Base pricing is a lot higher, i.e. the rate, so that they can get their money now in case you go into forbearance. One of the things we wanted to talk about was forbearance today and how that can affect your home loan. Gordon, this is something that you've run into many times. You've been in the business a lot longer. You have a lot of clients that are calling you, hey, I'm in forbearance. I love these rates. How can I get a home loan?
Yeah, I've had many conversations with clients in regards to forbearances, good, bad, and ugly. I've talked to a few clients up front. They asked me about forbearances, and I said I don't recommend it. Of course, people do what they want to do anyway. Now I'm talking to some of those same clients that's actually gone into forbearance and now are actually seeing the wrath of what the effect is of going into forbearance means and how it does affect you. I think the problem, and I had a conversation with an investor today, one of the problems is with forbearance, when customers call in, I don't think they're being adequately spoken to and given the right information of what the actual consequences are of forbearance. The first thing that they hear is it doesn't affect my credit. Is that correct? It is correct. It doesn't affect your credit because the actual late payments that you are making, or what you call deferred payments, are not being reflected on your credit report. But what a lot of investors are actually doing, they're making notations on the credit report saying loan is in deferment, or on the mortgage coupon it's telling you that this payment is $9,000 down, which is a $3,000 payment 3 times. So one way or the other, the investor is going to know that you're not current on your payment. One of the other issues are, as we have the forbearance, once again, the agencies put out the rulings, the investors add on the overlays because they want to make sure they're protected. Most investors have a minimum waiting period, where you want to call it, or an incubation period, that they will not make you a loan until that period is passed. One of our best investors today informed me that you have to make 6 months out of forbearance. So a client called
That's if you missed a payment.
No, 6 months period. After your last payment is when they're going to count it. Client called me last week. He went on and bought his loan.
But if you were in forbearance, if you're in forbearance, but you missed a payment, but they said that they would do it if you went into forbearance, but never missed a payment. So there's a big difference there.
Well, I'm speaking of forbearance, meaning you have not made your payment. That's the term when I mean forbearance. So if you had not made your payment, even though the late payment or the missed payment is not reported in your credit score has not been injured, but you are injured as far as you're trying to get a new loan. What they're saying is once you bring that loan current, let's say you pay it off today, they want you to make 6 more payments in order for you to be eligible to refinance to get these low rates. So that's definitely, we don't know where the market's going to be in 6 months. It could be worse or it could be better, but there's a waiting period. They will not make your loan right out of forbearance. So that's the key. When I say forbearance, I mean the payments have actually been missed, but it's not, you haven't been injured as far as your credit report or your credit score is concerned.
2 caveats to that. One, you can go into forbearance and not have missed a payment. So just keep making your payments. You did, for example.
But then you're not in forbearance. Don't use the term forbearance.
Yeah, but it still shows up on the credit and it still shows up on the mortgage statement. Okay, so according to the lender, you're in forbearance.
Well, it should not show up on the
I know
credit.
it shouldn't, but it does. I'm just telling you it does.
Well, that's something you need to get cleared up with your lender.
Right. Those are the creditors that are they're trying to squeak by the rules. It's not supposed to, if you filed for forbearance, but you never activated it, why is it on your credit? But it is. That's the problem. But you can easily explain that and prove it by just showing that you've made the payments, whether i.e. bank statements, mortgage statements, transaction history with the lender. And that there are lenders that will do transactions, including the best one that we have with the lowest rates. Then there is one more caveat is if you are in forbearance and you have missed payments and you catch up, you go back and make those payments, there is a lender that will do those transactions. It's when you don't catch up and you go into deferral, you add it to the end of the period or you add it to the end of the loan, whatever one that you do, that's the 6-month wait period.
I mean, there's a penalty to pay. That's why I tell investors a lot of these guys that have actually went into the forbearance, actually acted on the forbearance, actually have the capacity and ability to make the payment. A lot of guys say, well, I'm just going to hold on to cash to build up my cash reserves. Now they're realizing that now they're trying to get these low rates. One of them trying to buy a huge property requiring a jumbo loan. And I said, there's no way you're going to be qualified for a loan now because it's forbearance plan that you've done. So you've actually went on and paid it. Hopefully the investor that we're going to use might not use a lesser than three months, might not be too bad, but we can get a loan. But all I'm saying at the point in time is things sound really good up front. That's why you always got to read the fine print. And sometimes you got to ask the qualifying questions, but a lot of times the public don't know what the qualifying questions are. And I think that's where the investors actually fail in these people when they don't disclose these things up front. They just tell them sometimes they're telling you what you want to hear. Of course, nobody ever wants to make the payment. Or you can add it on the back of the loan, and you're actually going to pay a penalty because you're actually going to be injured in trying to get a new loan now.
And no one should be surprised that the lenders are not informing you about this. This happened back in 2010, 11, 12, when people were going into foreclosure or modifications. They say, well, we can't go into modification unless you miss the payment. And then you miss the payment, you go into modification, and then 3 or 4 years later, you come back to that same lender and you say, hey, can I get a mortgage? They go, hey, did you make your payments on time leading up to the modification? They go, no, we can't get you a loan. And so again, it's they even do it with equity lines. They don't tell you when you get an equity line that, hey, by the way, when you refinance this later, it's a cash out loan. Imagine all these people who got equity lines. They say, you know what? These rates are lower than my equity line, right? I want to put this into my home loan, pay it off, but now that's considered a cash out loan. They didn't tell you then. So there's a lot of disconnect in education that these lenders are not passing on to the consumers. Be very careful. We're here to help you. You're welcome to give us a call. 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220, or email us your scenario or any of your questions, Tony or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll come back after this break. I'm Tony Mendes. That's Gordon Hines. We have a lot more to talk about. Again, you can join the conversation, 800-516-1220. We'll be right back on AM 1220, KDOW.
Phone lines are open on the Real Estate Report. 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendes.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Thanks for joining us. We've already talked about rates, but it's worth saying again, all-time lows, 2.98% according to Freddie Mac weekly survey on the 30-year fixed and 2.48 on the 15-year. Fantastic rates. If you have an opportunity to grab these when you can, do it. We talked about how credit scores plays a massive part in getting and achieving this, as well as your loan amount. Are you doing cash out? Is it a duplex or a triplex, or is it a rental property, and so on? All of these things play into factors, and the farther you get away from a single family not cash out and conforming, the higher the rate's going to be. So these are there, but you got to kind of finesse it and make sure it is what works for you. With that said, we get a lot of emails on the show. This is a pretty decent email, and it has a lot to do with how to get a certain interest rate. As we know, home prices here in the Bay Area can range from anywhere, East Bay in the high 900s to the peninsula in San Francisco in the mid to lower million. A lot of people got jumbo loans. This particular person said they bought their house in 2019 with an $800,000 loan at 4%. That's not a bad rate for that year. Does it make sense to put $35,000, or he said $30,000 to $40,000 into my loan to get the balance to the conforming limit so we can get those lower rates? I like the way he's thinking. This is Joe in San Jose. There's a real rate of return on doing something like this. Of course, you have to have the money. Two, you can run the numbers, which I did for him. I just took a $800,000 loan at 4%. That's a payment of $38.20 a month. If he was to go to a $765,000 loan, that's $35,000 into the loan. All right, that he takes out of whatever account it's in. Could be brokerage, could be Apple stock, could be anything. He can get, say, 3%. That's a savings of $594 a month from his original payment, right? So that's $7,036 a year he saves. Divided in by the $35,000 he put into it, that's about a 20% rate of return. Or he can pay himself back in 5 years. This is a very interesting scenario, Gordon. For somebody that has a little bit of money there and they can get to that conforming limit, they're looking at these lower interest rates. We have an election year coming up. We don't know what's going to happen. Would this make sense to someone like you?
It depends. Can I take the $35,000 and invest in the stock market and get a 30, 35, 40% return?
You remember, he's still stuck at the higher payment, though.
But it's okay. But if I'm stuck at the higher payment, but my $35,000 I'm going to put into my house is going to get me a 35 or 40% return on market, I think that's a better deal. Everything is a little bit different. That's why we always tell you, always go back to your professionals, talk to your financial planner, talk to your accountant. He can tell you if this is going to pencil out. tax bracket, how long you plan on staying in that property. You can do a lot of things to get lower rates, but you can also give away a lot of money if you don't stay in the project long enough to recoup your costs. So a lot of times it's great to get low rates, but you always got to make sure you do your homework, do your arithmetic to make sure it's going to pencil out for you in the long run. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. The other thing too is when everything comes back, if he waits long enough, and what if there is a vaccine? He could lose these interest rates completely. Right, so there's a lot of risk in doing this. But if you have the money, I like that. I like getting 20% rate of return on the money. It's just you're just not spending it. That's where he's getting the rate of return. He's not spending it, and he recoups the money over a period of time. We'll come back after this break. I love scenarios like this. You can always email, like Joe did, to Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Or you can call the show 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. This is the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW. We'll be right back.
Got a question? Run it past these guys.
800-516-1220.
It's the Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
Always welcome to call the show, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. New home sales expected to surge. Mortgage Bankers Association expecting new home sales, their report from June, to spike based on results of its builder application survey. That survey shows mortgage applications for new home purchases were up 20% from May and 54% compared to a year ago. The president of the Mortgage Bankers Association, or vice president, sorry, he said that the new home purchase market continues to recover. Applications surged 20% in June. And although this is not adjusted for seasonal impact, it is another piece of data indicating that home buyer activity that was delayed by the pandemic in March and April is being realized later in the season. The fact that applications are up over 50% from last June further reinforces that point. So the applications are actually outpacing new home buildings right now, and new listings. So we have it goes back to Robert Schiller talking about the flight to out of the urban areas. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But what are you going to face when you get out there in the market? More than half of, and this is a report from Redfin, offers faced bidding wars for the second consecutive month in June. 54% of Redfin offers faced competition as the supply of homes for sale and mortgage rates continued to fall in June. So we're seeing that. Right now, we're seeing more applications going into purchases. We're seeing builders going. We saw builder stocks go up a lot today because that builder confidence just spiked again, almost back to pre-COVID levels. And they're realizing that, we need to build some more houses. At the same time, we're seeing applications outpace new home building and existing home listings. This is going to continue driving, even though we saw a little bit of slowdown in the growth of year-over-year growth. I think it was 4.6%, and it's down a little bit month over month, year over year. But I continue to see this as a kind of a steady, out of the realm of COVID and the other economic news building as people are continually looking at real estate right now, Gordon.
Well, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about rates, of course, but one of the biggest important things that's going on in the actual marketplace, and we talk to realtors all the time, is it's time to get a transaction closed. When rates are really low, the market's very, very busy. And we talk about this on the show all the time. We've got an influx of applications coming in. And the biggest number of applications actually is coming on refinances because people are trying to get lower rate, lower payment, cash out, all those kind of things, paying off private loans that they got a year ago, 2 years ago. So a lot of activity there. Then you throw in new home sales in the sales market. Something's got to give. Lenders and investors only have so much personnel. People are working from home. The market's actually gotten slow. The days that it takes to close a loan have actually gotten slower, and a lot of times as realtors have to know this when we get calls from realtors and they ask us what the amount of time this transaction is to close. You tell them 30, 35 days. They want to do it 20, 25, and then at the end of the day, you put a lot of pressure on the transaction because you just can't close it that swiftly because of all the activity. The appraisal is going to take time to get out there. The home inspectors are slow. The termite people are slow. So everything, you have to take this all into consideration if you're actually trying to maximize your benefit and be very diligent and professional in your business. So these are all the things that comes down to the loan people. We get all the calls, hey, when the loan's going to close? Where are the loan documents? The loan docs might take one day when it's normal, but it might take 3 days now because of the pressure, the amount of docs that have to be drawn. So if you're realtor, you're professional, you're a buyer, please keep all these things in mind if you want to be efficient in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, we brought up the fact that there is a lender out there that will allow people to refinance in forbearance, right?
Yeah.
Even if you missed this payment and paid that back, and then you close the forbearance, they're busy. Their turn times went from 1 to 2 days to like 10 days overnight. You know what I mean? And some of this is trickling into a lot of it's trickling into the purchase scenario where you have realtors that, their mindset is we got to close. You have sellers that, why aren't we closing? And then you have buyers who are like, we want to close as soon as possible. We wrote this great offer and so on. It is something that we're going to have to continually work on through the industry. The industry has suffered a little bit in that respect, especially when there's such high demand for these low interest rates. A lot of people are confused about how to get them. We try to talk as much as we can on the show, but it's still, those rates are like an advertisement to go out and buy a house. Where else can you go out and buy a $500, $600, $8 million house and get these kind of interest rates? That's what people are looking at. And then you have the whole story about where do you want to live? A lot of companies around the United, like Facebook, and they're really embracing the work from home kind of mentality and new philosophy of working. A lot of companies are doing that, and a lot of people are fleeing the urban areas, driving up home prices in other areas like Sacramento's, the Renos, and we're talking West Coast, of course, but you can go across the whole United States and see where it's happening, where we're seeing bidding wars. Boston, Massachusetts, let me go back to Boston, San Diego, Salt Lake City, the whole San Francisco, San Jose area. These are all over 50% of homes are facing bidding wars. And a lot of these cities are what we would call second tier cities. A lot of people are moving it. In fact, the article from Robert Schiller continues on by saying that he believes that home prices in urban areas may actually go down because there are so many people that are looking to work from home. There's even an ETF right now that you can buy, an exchange traded fund that focuses on companies that only do work from home now or promote it. Like this is a mentality that we are really embracing. It's very new for us, but it's moving very fast in the real estate market, and it's exemplified by that.
Yeah, work from home is very, very challenging. A lot of things are happening when you work from home. Of course, there's family interruption, there's pet interruption. You got kids that have to be doing homeschooling. There's neighbors. There's all kinds of things that you typically don't have to deal with working inside of an office. One of the biggest things now is cybersecurity. A lot of times when you work for a company, they have a secured server. Some people at home just don't have these things, and it's causing a lot of havoc as far as being able to penetrate different documents. So a lot of lenders now or companies have to put additional security on these documents just to protect themselves because people are working from home and don't have the same security they had at work in the office. A lot of different changes, a lot of different sentiments going on in the market. Behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. You just mentioned about Robert Schiller. We're talking about people now. There's a big demand now to move from cities versus the crowded cities into suburbs where people all of a sudden want more spread out space. Don't want them to be on top of each other. We just had the mass migration back to the city. Now it looks like people want to branch back out the cities, back out in suburbs simply because of COVID. People believe that the 6 feet separation of space is an additive, and when you live in the city, you just can't get that. So a lot of different things are happening, and as the market changes, we have to change with it. Our sentiments have changed, our projections have changed, and builders now are challenged now and kind of restructuring a lot of these homes because we had the open space. We talked about it before. People now want they want the office in home, they want the gym. So a lot of different things are happening, and that's why you're going to see. That's why the online sales are doing so well, because as people stay at home, they're buying more things now to make home more comfortable and perceive safety without having to go out. And that's why you're seeing those changes are happening right now.
He touches on, Robert Schiller, touches on a lot of what you just said, Gordon. In fact, you probably could have wrote the article. He says, what's nice about the city? Restaurants, theaters, museums, shows. But if you're afraid of people and you think you might catch something in this epidemic, then it may change the way you feel about the city. He thinks it's going to cause price declines. People won't be willing to spend $1 million for a small condo if they can buy a single family house somewhere else and work from there.
And have a separation of space.
Yeah, it really does come down to what is going to work for you. And with low interest rates, a $500,000 house somewhere else really is pretty attractive. That's twice the size of that condo. That's twice the price. And you can work from home. This is a theme that's going to continue throughout the year. You're welcome to call and comment about it. It is something that we're paying attention to greatly. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can always email the show, Tony@BayAreaLoanSource.com or Gordon@BayAreaLoanSource.com. Call the show, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. I think we have one more email for the next segment, a couple more pieces of news, and yeah.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines, the Real Estate Report on AM 1220.
Tony and Gordon are taking your calls at 800-516-1220. It's the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm Gordon Hines.
22 million Americans delayed buying a home during the coronavirus, according to Bankrate.com survey. They say if there's one thing we have an abundance of right now, and that is we have buyers. We have a huge amount of millennials. Those are aged from 18 to 39. They were almost 3 times as likely as Americans that were over 40 years old to delay a home purchase. There's only one other kind of purchase that they delayed more often, and that was all Americans, that is, was buying a car. So people are putting it off. It is there's a lot of uncertainty, Gordon, but do you see that as something that's we talked about this, it's just a delayed buying season, a delayed selling season? Are we going to see a flood of just activity as we get closer to some sort of solution to what's going on?
Well, people have been asking about this all week.
So you have the answer then?
I have the answer for sure. Everything has been delayed. If you look at where we are currently right now, there's a certain amount of uncertainty in the air. What we thought was supposed to take place has not taken place. We went through the shelter in place. We said, okay, we start to reopen the market. All of a sudden now it seems like we've actually gone backwards as far as, cases are concerned. People are concerned. So people that were coming out of looking to buy have probably gone back into another protective shell. At some point in time, it's going to change. I think at this point in time, my only sentiment that's going to see a full-time change is some type of vaccine. Many companies have been announcing all week they're getting really, really close. I think Johnson & Johnson think they're going to have something on now by the end of September to test. So a lot of different things are happening. Scientists are working around the clock trying to get some type of cure for this. I was online earlier today trying to look and track all of the sediments of what happened during the Spanish flu back in 1918 when the soldiers returned from World War I, came back and re-affected the population here. I was trying to figure out how did we actually get out of it, how long did it actually take. I didn't get a chance to finish reading the article. But these are all the things that are important. That's the reason why we say we study history, because history always tends to repeat itself. So if we're going to repeat itself, let's look what we're doing right now. They were saying that the virus, as the weather gets warmer, is going to go away. It looks like it's getting worse. So we're just kind of, making some change and making way, and hopefully that we've seen the worst, and hopefully we're going to actually see the best. And as the best comes, the fall kicks in. You're going to see all those plethora of home buyers that are sitting on the fence jump in the marketplace. You're going to see sellers that are now looking to move. And hopefully it's going to be a very, very, very lucrative fall and early winter.
I think it will be. I think that the normal seasons, the buying seasons, the spring and the fall, those are going to go away. I think if we see any kind of activity, positive news about COVID, we are going to see very active fall, winter, spring, and so on. And I think it's going to continue on because I think rates will stay low, Gordon. We have an election year. That's really throwing a weird bone in this.
Yeah, rates are definitely going to stay low because right now, we mentioned earlier, rates is what's keeping the economy going. I mean, right now, there's people are nervous. Everything, people are nervous. You look around, you just look at a person that walks by you in a hallway. They're looking at you as if you're a carrier for some reason, sometimes, if it looks like. So because there's a certain amount of unknown factors, how do you get this thing, how you not get it, what should I do, should I not touch this, should I not touch that? So as people are nervous, they do strange things, and we just have to learn to work through this strange crisis.
If you can work through all of that and you do eventually looking at a house, you get in contract or you're looking to refinance, the real estate business and the mortgage business has figured out how to get you a transaction done. The mortgage business is doing really well. They have figured it out. They're working from home. Title companies have figured it out. Appraisers have figured it out. Fannie Mae is doing a lot more appraisal waivers. I think you can still do drive-bys in certain cases. The industry has figured itself out. The rates are there. So there's a lot of positives about the environment we're in right now, minus the fact that you are going to get into a bidding war, most likely when you go and buy a house. When you do a refinance, you have to be a little bit more patient. There's a little bit more paperwork, a little bit more proving that you made payments and proving that you work. And who is that email coming from your somebody sitting at a house with the without the company email, or is it coming from the company? There's a lot of weird things that are happening, but they figured it out. It's all working. Nothing's stopping because of the mortgage and real estate business. It's all right now is, can you afford it, and can you take advantage of it?
Right. That's why we talked earlier with cybersecurity. You got to be really careful when a lot of those emails. I'm not too quick to open emails right now. I'm just really tracking stuff. I'm really cautious about things because I know there's always people out there looking to capitalize on people that are nervous, capitalize people that are negligent. So that's why it's very, very important to pay attention to what you're doing, especially when we're on the World Wide Web. Just make sure you keep your eyes and the ears open.
If you want to quote or have any kind of question, you can always email the show, Tony or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's Tony or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's Tony Mendez or Tony at BayAreaLoanSource.com. Our website, BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. This is the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW. Stay safe out there.
This message is for anyone looking for fire.
Thank you, Vince.
All right. Have a good day. All right.
You too.